Welcome to the Dallas Camera Club's June 2013 monthly competition. The theme for this month is peeling, defined as capture peeling paint, wallpaper, bark, or other surface as it shows the effects of time and the elements. The image may include a recognizable part of the whole or just focus on the details of the peeling surface. Our judge for prints this month is Ange Fitzgerald. First we have Beginner's Monochrome Prints. What Lies Beneath by Dalis and Foglia. This image has nice sharpness. But what is this peeling paint attached to? A bigger crop would have been more interesting to me. 10 points. Bench in Need of a Little Paint by Julie Horak. This image has beautiful detail, contrast, and depth of field. An excellent crop. 11 points. Fence Peel by Spencer Parker. This image has nice blur and depth of field, good details. I would have liked to have seen a larger crop to include more of the fence. 12 points. Needs Some TLC by Jackie Carver. I love the shadows. I would have cropped to include more of the AC unit in the upper left and darken this a bit in post perhaps. It does seem to need a little more contrast, but I really like the subject you chose. 12 points. Left Column by Michael Farnham. Good details. Looks good on the lights and darks. Perhaps less tight of a crop. 12 points and honorable mention. Puff Paint by Barbara Briley. I love the detail and the grainy feel of this image. Original subject matter, and a nice change from the many images of peeling paint I've seen so far. 12 points and third place. Post No Bills by Michael Rivera. I love the subject and the pieces of images visible. Perhaps less shadow at the bottom portion of the image. I like this and the contrast of paper against wood grain. 13 points and second place. Bark with Bite by Chris Kobos. Beautiful detail, beautiful contrast and depth of field as well. Excellent crop on this image. 14 points and first place. Advanced Monochrome Prints. Inverness, Scotland World War I Memorial by Andy McCulloch. Nice subject matter. A less tight crop might have been a more interesting composition for me. 10 points. Highway 87 Drive-In by Susan Stageman. Nice detail and subject matter. Perhaps not centering the signage might have made the composition more compelling. 11 points. Calf Fries, Frog Legs by Steve Havacek. Nice details. I would have liked to have seen a larger crop and a bit more contrast here. 11 points. Crack Addict by Richard Stern. Good details. A larger crop might have improved this image. 11 points. Worn Original Church Bell 1879 TELICO, Texas. Love the metallic finish. This is great the way the wire goes off out of the image to the right. I might not have had the bell right in the center of the image. 11 points. Peeling Paint by Gary Coles. Fantastic detail, sharpness, and depth of field. 11 points. 102 Main by Bob Krause. Great subject matter. Perhaps toning down the contrast a bit would help things here. 11 points. Crackle Time by Jerry Martin. Great contrast and detail. 11 points and honorable mention. Arch Detail by Susan Burciaga. Great crop and interesting subject, nice lights and darks. Some of the details are so sharp or too contrasty, it is a bit distracting. 12 points in third place. Train Detail 5 by Teena Arms. Great subject matter. Love the bubbling and detail. Nice composition. However, perhaps a less tight crop to include more of what this pattern belongs to. 13 points and second place. Steel Dragon by Rachel Cook. Lovely subject matter, very nice contrast and detail. 13 points and first place. Masters Monochrome Prints. Curling Cedar by Suzanne Graham. I find it interesting that I would have liked to have seen more what is outside the crop. I know the theme is peeling, but I want to see the rest of the surface for comparison with the peeled part. Black and white versus sepia would be an improvement, and it seems overly blurred at the edges of the crop. Great details overall. 9 points. Grunge Paint by Gary Kelly. Good paint bubble patterns make this interesting and abstract. I would have liked to have seen a wider crop for more contrast with what we are looking at. 9 points. Peeling Paint Off Bricks by Betty Johnson. Nice detail and shadows. Cropped a bit too close to the shadows though. I'd like to see a wider shot. 9 points. CADILLAC Crevices by J. Hoppenstein. Great use of shadows. The composition does seem a bit puzzling though. 10 points. Missing Panes and Paint by Harry Rumberger. I like the patterns here. I do feel that less contrast would improve it. The image seems a bit matchy-matchy with the crop. This makes things less interesting for me. I think including more outside the panes would have made them pop more. 10 points. Chemical Tanks Peeling Paint by Dan Meredith. Great detail and contrast. I think the composition might be improved by more focus on one particular detail. 10 points. Worn Out by Steve Reeves. I really like the metallic finish of the print and the subject matter. I love all the stripes. I would have liked to have seen more of what's outside the cropped area. 11 points. Looked Better Back Then by Dennis Fritchie. Great detail, a good abstract. I love the reflection and would have liked to have seen more of that to balance out the composition. 11 points. Weathered Hardtop Detail by Bob Johnson. Strong showing of texture and fiber. I think the composition might have been improved by less tight of a crop. This looks like something you'd see under a microscope. 11 points. Fire Hydrant by Kay Hargis. The level of detail is exquisite. I love the raised letters. A less tight crop would have made this more interesting for me, but overall a great abstract with good details. 13 points. Final Note by Houston Brown. Great blur in the top center. I might have removed that white piece that's in the middle lower left of the shot. It's a bit distracting. This is something I would probably hang on my wall. I love it. 13 points and honorable mention. Power Drive Bracket by Wayland Threadgill. Great detail, interesting composition. I love the detail of the rose-like piece in the upper right. I would have liked to have seen more of what's just outside the crop. 14 points and third place. Pressed Tin by Erin Curry. Love the subject, the details, the shadows, and the contrasts. 14 points and second place. Onion Peels by Frank Richards. Very original after looking at so much peeling paint. Love this. Fantastic details, great whites and blacks. Really beautiful. I would hang this on my wall. 15 points and first place. Beginner's Color Prints. Weathered Rocker by Julie Horak. Great subject matter. There does seem to be too much detail here. It's hard to see the rocker because this seems so over-processed. 10 points. Birch Panel Fish by Denny Farmer. Good detail and color. Perhaps not centering the fish would have made this composition more interesting for me. 10 points. Midnight Blue and Bubblegum Pink by Michael Rivera. Love the bits of color here. In fact, I would have liked to have seen more of the color. This image seems out of focus in spots. Perhaps this is what you intended? 11 points. Italian Tomatoes by Dalis and Foglia. Nice shadows, detail, and contrast. Perhaps including more outside the crop so that the letters aren't framed so perfectly at the bottom would improve the composition. 11 points. Cracking Up by Barbara Briley. This image has nice details. I feel it might be improved some with desaturation. 11 points. Up Staircase by Michael Farnham. Nice details, color, and contrast. I'd like to see a less tight crop, but this is very interesting. It looks like an abstract landscape. 12 points. Fence Rot by Spencer Parker. Nice colors. I would have cropped this image a bit less to include more of the branch going out of the image at the left. 12 points and honorable mention. Just Great by Chris Kobos. I love the metallic finish and the pattern of this composition. I find myself wanting to see more of the silver parts. 12 points and third place. MESA VERDE by Jackie Carver. I absolutely love the details in the greens in this image. In fact, I would have liked to have seen the green portion as the primary focus. 13 points and second place. Barn Near Ennis, Texas by Morris Stein. Beautiful subject matter, great detail and color. I would have liked to see more foreground and more blue sky. Really nice, makes me want to go visit this place. 15 points and first place. Advanced Color Prints. Pirouette by Richard Stern. Nice sharpness. This image does seem to be a bit oversaturated. 10 points. Closed for Business by Susan Stageman. Great subject matter, color, and detail. The composition might have been improved if a closer crop was applied, focusing on either just the sign or the broken windows and brick. 11 points. Still a Beauty by J. Hoppenstein. Great subject, color, and detail. Maybe a bit too centered for my taste, and I would have liked to have seen a closer crop and greater depth of field. 11 points. Green by Bob Kraus. Great color and detail. I'd like to see a less tight crop here and more of the peeling parts. 11 points. Weathered by Steve Havacek. I like the diagonal orientation of this composition. Good details. 12 points. Seen Better Days by Jerry Martin. This is a charming subject with nice details. I think you could have used a bit more contrast here. 12 points. Stirling Castle Detail, Scotland, 1988 by Andy McCulloch. Great composition. Seems like this image could have been sharper. I would have liked to have seen more contrast and depth of field as well. 12 points. Rivet Hole by Teena Arms. I really like the composition, color, detail, and contrast here. However, this image seems like it might be a little oversaturated. Also, I would have liked to have seen a bit more focus versus blur. 13 points. Shattered by Erin Curry. I love the finish here. I love the color and detail. Perhaps you could have used a bit more contrast. 13 points and honorable mention. Weathered by Gary Coles. Excellent subject matter, composition, and colors. There might be a bit too much detail in some spots. 13 points and third place. Hinge by Susan Burciaga. Beautiful colors, subject matter, and composition. There are some areas that seem distractingly sharp. 14 points and second place. Short Circuit by Rachel Cook. I love everything about this image. Brilliant. 15 points and first place. Masters Color Prints. Lumberyard by Wayland Threadgill. Nice color and shadows. I love the detail of the ant. I would have liked to have seen a wider crop on this. 11 points. Well Traveled by Kay Hargis. Great details, though I find myself wanting to see more of this trunk. 11 points. Wallpaper by Bob Johnson. Rugged and outdoorsy. This composition seems a bit random. 11 points. Peeling Vinyl Car Top by Betty Johnson. I love the detail of the fibers and finding myself wanting to see more of this car top. 11 points. Layers by Steve Newman. Nice depth of field, great detail and colors. 12 points. Colorful Deterioration, Santiago, Cuba by Janie Rumberger. Nice detail, great color. I would have liked to have seen the entire door at the top of the steps. Beautiful, looks like a painting. 12 points. Old 190 by Gary Kelly. This image has great colors and is problem-free. Looks good as is. 12 points. What Lies Beneath by Dennis Fritchie. Fantastic details, though I might have desaturated this image a bit. 12 points. Corroded Door Floating on Algae-Covered Pond, Elm Fork, Trinity River by Harry Rumberger. Great colors and composition, very original. 13 points. Peeling Whiteboards by Dan Meredith. Great use of light. I would have liked to have seen a closer crop to give more emphasis to the peeling boards. 13 points. Tree with Character by Suzanne Graham. Nice depth of field. I like the composition, but I also find myself wanting to see more of the tree. 13 points and honorable mention. Chama by Frank Richards. Brilliant composition, love the shapes and colors. 13 points and third place. Glaze by Houston Brown. I love the metallic finish and the composition, particularly the rubber objects in the lower left. I love the detail here and how you can see the whole scene with the theme being reflected in a few different parts of the overall image. 14 points and second place. Observe by Steve Reeves. I love the subject matter. The composition, colors, contrast, and metallic finish are great. 15 points and first place.